I'm Tess, and I'm a bibliomaniac.
Hi, Tess.
Hi, Tess.
I especially love book illustrations, so tonight, for my blethering, I'm going to offer you a brief history of book illustration in 4 books. And before you ask, yes, I have a favorite. I'm going to start, first of all, with the Nuremberg Chronicle, which was printed in Germany in 1493. The illustrations in this book show how its 15th century readers saw the world. So you see that the map, for example, does not depict America, but the illustrations at the side do depict mysterious, fantastic creatures who might possibly still inhabit the world. Maybe. It's a history of the world, so obviously it begins with God creating the world. That's his hand in the upper corner. It then outlines all of world history, leaves a few pages blank for the events that haven't happened yet, and then skips ahead to the end of history and illustrates the apocalypse, as described in Revelations. This book was a complex, expensive production, and it's still known as a monument of visual communication. It has 1,804 images. This was 1493. But some things get lost in translation over time. The printers made some decisions that are hard for us to interpret today. So specifically, many of the illustrations are exact duplicates of each other. For example, one illustration, this one, is used to depict 4 different cities: Verona, Damascus, Mantua, Perugia. In real life, obviously, these cities are very different. So this begs the question, what are these images really supposed to communicate? Are they like symbolic depictions? Are they basically memes? I really don't understand. Some of the illustrations, on the other hand, are spot on. This is Nuremberg. The book was printed in Nuremberg. They knew how to get this one right. These illustrations help us understand the limits of the bookmaker's knowledge, but they raise questions about how this visual information would have been interpreted. I can't answer those questions, so let's move on to the 17th century. This is Book 2, the Sidereus Nuncius, a work by Galileo on astronomy. These are the first published pictures of the surface of the moon. This book demonstrates an important principle. Rapid scientific advancement in the early modern period depended, in part, on printing. Specifically, it depended on the ability to print hundreds of identical copies of scientific diagrams like this constellation. Images copied by hand weren't always reliable, for obvious reasons, but printing could accurately share information that can't be communicated verbally. So many branches of science advanced much more quickly when data could be circulated in print. I'm showing you this particular book as an example because it turned up in the news a few years ago. A dealer announced that he had a very special proof copy with Galileo's own sketches in place of the printed illustrations. Scholars got very excited about this. It seemed almost too good to be true. It was too good to be true. In 2013, a bibliographer demonstrated that this copy was a forgery. Galileo's signature on the title page was fake. The provenance was fake. The illustrations were completely fake. And in fact, the entire book was printed in the 21st century. So this is the first time that we know of, that an entire printed book has been forged. It's never happened before. This is scary. It's also fun. If it were real, this book would have provided invaluable information about the history of science and scientific communication, but instead, to me, it's an objectless lesson in why bibliographers are useful to have around. Anyway, on to something more cheerful. This is Bewick's History of British Birds, a book on ornithology that was very popular at the beginning of the 19th century. Why? Because it was at the forefront of a transformation in visual culture. When Bewick, the illustrator, was a child in the 18th century, he had access to 2 pictures in his village. The royal crest painted on the wall of the church, and carved wooden inn signs. To see other pictures, he had to walk miles to the bookstore in the next town over. But as an adult, in the 19th century, he became one of the greatest illustrators in the history of the book. He was one of the earliest and most creative adopters of a new technique called wood engraving. Wood engravings, printed from blocks like that, could produce fine and detailed images, but they were a real game changer because they were durable, they were easy to make, they were easy to print, and they could produce more copies of an image than any other process before could. So basically, they made pictures cheap for the first time ever. So, obviously, suddenly, illustrations were everywhere. Bewick's books overflow with images, including small vignettes that are completely unrelated to the book's subjects. These vignettes became iconic. In the first chapter of Jane Eyre, Jane lingers over the vignettes while reading Bewick's History of Birds, and she's especially frightened of that particular one. Wood engraving was just one of many technological innovations that have altered the visual landscape. In the 19th century, visual culture, due to many innovations, became popular, accessible, whimsical. There's Buick illustrating his own thumbprint. In other words, the Victorians took several steps closer to the intensely visual culture we inhabit now. But this onslaught of cheap, often low-quality images provoked a reaction. In some genres, illustration declined, in others it went on steroids. This is the 1896 Kelmscott Press edition of Chaucer, designed by William Morris and illustrated by Edward Burne-Jones. They intended to glorify Chaucer and to make what they called a pocket cathedral. This book is the first landmark in the fine press movement, which valued high-end, beautiful hand-press printing as opposed to cheap industrial print. The Kelmscott Press helped to position fine printing as an art and to conceptualize books as works of art. But to me, and to other book historians, this beautiful, gorgeous edition is kind of unreadable. The type is archaic, the borders and the illustrations overshadow the text and clash with each other. This isn't a reading copy of Chaucer, it's a work of art about Chaucer. So, to sum up, in books, the word and the image have always worked in concert. Tracing the history of that relationship, the history of illustration, helps us explore the vast and varied possibilities of visual communication, valuable knowledge in an increasingly non-verbal world. Plus, as we've seen in every presentation tonight, pictures make things more fun.